Paul Scheer. This is Darren Leader, Paul Scheer. Paul, you are simply the best for so many reasons, but the number one reason is because you
have a great hairstyle.
Well,
I mean, that's it. Thank you, Darren. I appreciate that. As a fellow bald man, we must stick together. Not like these phonies over here. Rob Riggle, he was showing off he's got hair on top, hair on the face. Come on, man. Pick one. Too much hair.
I don't think you have to pick one.
It says to us that you're masking something.
Okay,
yeah.
It's clear.
I'm not masking anything. I was blessed by God and his angels with, a robust.
Now, I will say this. I know you say that all the time, but you say robust, say a beard, right? Like a beautiful head of hair. But I've heard, and I've read this on Reddit, and I don't want to call you out, make this public. I know you're a private person. That is pubic hair that's come up all the way to the top, right?
Thank you. Somebody said it. Somebody just said it.
I know. I've heard the rumors, too, that my pubic hair grows all the way up my body.
Yeah.
To my neck and up onto my face, and that I shave from here down.
Yes.
I've heard that, too. And I'm here to set the record straight. I'm glad, Paul. Actually, I appreciate you bringing this up.
Yeah.
Because I want to set the record straight.
Well, please do.
This is standalone facial hair.
Okay.
It does not stem from my pubic regions.
Okay. And that is that not because you shave it so it looks like it doesn't stem there. You're saying that it does not stem there.
It does not stem from my pubic region. This is original facial hair, not pubic facial hair.
Okay, great.
I just want to ask you this. I'm not going to say you're wrong. I'm not going to say that you're in some sort of fantasy land about it, but I'm going to say, how are you expecting Paul Scheer to believe you that your face isn't a giant pubic region?
I feel like that's a loaded question. I feel like you are doubting what I'm saying.
Not at all.
I've looked my good friend Paul in the face, and I've said no.
Hey, look,
that's not the case.
As someone who has fought for our country, I don't want to tell you that I don't believe you. You know what? And if that's the world that you want to be in, I want to support that because I believe that everybody should, define themselves the way that they want to see themselves. So there you go, Rob. If you're saying to me that you believe that you're not a man with a pubic hair beard, then I believe you.
I'm not a man with a pubic hair.
Don't be so defensive.
I will agree with Paul. I'll believe you too.
Yeah, we believe you.
You don't have to believe me. It's factual.
Don't get so defensive about it.
I'm not defensive. I just feel like you guys are framing it in such a way that it makes it sound like I've got my face is pubic hair.
All of a sudden, bring me on
regular.
You bring me on this show only to talk about this. It feels odd to me.
I hate that we did that, Paul, but I've been having this conversation with him for months, and I needed some expert opinion.
Well, I mean, look, this is, look, Rob, we support you and whatever you want to do.
It's a regular beard, a facial hair beard.
We got you, dude, right here. Put it up. Come on.
It is.
There you go.
Great.
That's why I'm acknowledged with the fist bump.
We're all in agreement.
You don't have a pubic face.
That I don't have a pubic.
But when you cross your legs, I feel like your chin goes. It almost like you start to frown a bit. I've noticed.
He gets it.
Because
he gets it.
The way that your legs are open, that's why you have to keep your legs open during podcast records. Because when you cross, it does pull down.
Let me.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. See.
Oh yeah. I just saw it. I just saw it.
See what?
Yeah.
I didn't. I just.
You know what? Yeah. Let's just drop it. Let's drop it. Let the audience decide. You put up a poll or something like that.
You
can make a lot of money on OnlyFans is what I want to tell you, though.
Yeah, special pubic face.
What?
I think they have a subsection in OnlyFans called pubic
faces.
That's
not a thing.
And I know somebody who you can work with. They do feet stuff, and if you do face, pubic, beard stuff, I think it could be. Anyway, this is not about that. Obviously, we have bigger things to talk about.
We do. Thank you for that. And by the way, Paul Scheer and I go way back. We started doing comedy together, Darren, for your education. We started doing comedy together back when Paul was an undergrad. Do you remember that?
Dude, I remember that because, as a matter of fact, I wrote a book, right? And I've been going back through my life. But this is a a fake copy of it, but there it is.
Oh, look at
That's
that.
the first edition of it. You can pre-order it now. But I wrote a
Where?
book.
Where? Amazon?
Anywhere books are sold, you can get this book now. And apparently pre-orders are the way to go because that's the way publishing works now. But yeah, you can
I
get this.
love this book. Oh
Thank
my
you.
gosh, I'm so proud of you, Paul. This
Thank
is
you.
great. Everybody listening, please pre-order Paul's book, Paul Scheer, Joyful Recollections of Trauma. I'm sure it's going to be a fantastic book. I've got to pre-order mine right now.
I appreciate that. I'm going to tell you, but I've been thinking a lot about us starting off. And, you know, as I wrote about this one thing in the book. Now, I don't remember if you were with us, but we have done, Rob and I have performed together so much, and we have eaten shit so many times. And it's sort of funny because like we've had great shows and we've done amazing shows, but the ones that kind of stick in your head are the ones where you're like, whew, all right. It kind of, I don't know, in a weird way, it like reinvigorates you because you're like, right, okay, right. It's like, it's a punch. It's like, oh, I can still take a punch in the face.
Yeah, you got to pick yourself up.
Yeah. And I was going back through this book and like talking about different stuff. And it also, the one thing where I was talking about you in the book is the first time I ever got to audition for SNL was because Lorne Michaels saw me in a sketch that Rob and I did together on stage. We did this like sketch where Rob was my little league baseball coach and I was a bench warmer kid. And I'm like just peppering him and making his life miserable. Just ask him all sorts of inappropriate questions about his life and his family and does he want to be here? And he's getting more and more frustrated with me. But I've been thinking about a lot of that stuff, that time that we've been together. I mean, it's been ages. I mean, before 2000, Rob.
Oh my God. I know that's what's amazing to me. We have such a wonderful history. And that time in New York when we were coming up at the UCB theater together and we're grinding and, you know, everybody's got a day job and then every night you're writing and you're doing sketches and you're just down at the theater and you're trying so hard to find some traction and it's the grind, it's the struggle, it's the best part of it. You don't know it at the time.
Right.
At the time, it's just pain. But you look back on it and you're like, oh my God, those were some of the best laughs, some of the best times, some of the best work. It was just so fresh and new and fun.
You know what's kind of great about it is there's no stakes to it, right? Because you're nobody. So you can fail and you can succeed and no one cares, right? There's no record of it. Like we got to do shows with famous people and no one like, and I think that's like, you have to keep that mentality. Rob and I still perform, you know, like once a month we do shows out here in Los Angeles at Largo. And there's a sense of that's our time to, and I hate this term, but like play, like just have fun. It's like, it doesn't mean anything. It's disposable. It goes away. And I think that you have to keep that energy. I mean, look, I can't go home and write all night. I can't go out to the bar anymore. I got kids. I got all this sort of stuff. But it is like, it's important. Or I think if that muscle starts to atrophy, you get too precious and you get too nervous, you know?
Completely. And I couldn't agree more. Being able to come down to Largo is like a lifeline for me. It really is. And I get frustrated when I'm traveling on show dates and stuff because it is a lifeline. It's a muscle. And I love to see my friends and I love to get on stage with them and play with them. And just kind of remember all that stuff, and you do have to do it because it will atrophy on you. It doesn't take long. It doesn't take long.
When you guys are doing the Largo thing, and I know it's no stakes, and I know it's, you know, you guys are doing what you love to do. Are there people in the crowd with phones, and does that become permanent?
I haven't seen much.
No, the best part about Largo is a place in Los Angeles that does all sorts of comedy. You'll see like Adam Sandler pops up in there all the night, all different nights. David Byrne from the Talking Heads just did a set last night on Fred Armisen's show, but they make it very clear from the minute you walk in, no phones can be out. And there are people watching to make sure that no phones go out.
That's great.
And the benefit of that place is you never see anyone on a phone. You never see their face illuminated. They get kicked right out. It's like the Alamo Drafthouse. And I think that that's kind of great. And Rob and I came up in a time where that wasn't even a possibility to tape anything on a phone.
Right.
You barely were texting. But I can't remember if I left this in the book or not. But Rob, the moment I remember, and I know you were there for this, we had done this show called The Real Real World. And The Real Real World was a parody of The Real World, the MTV reality show about people living in a house. And so we were doing an improvised version of that. It was very successful. It was kind of the first breakout successful student show at the Upright Citizens Brigade Theater, in the sense that we came up through the system. It was our show. And we got kind of popular, and we got asked to perform at the Minnesota Comedy Festival. And the show was booked at the Mall of America, this place called Knuckleheads. And it's a traditional, straight up stand-up comedy club. And people were there on a Friday night ready to go see stand-up comedy, not an improvised version of the real world. And I get up on stage and I start introducing the show. I'm like, I'm the director. This is what happened. And as I do that, I hear a voice from the audience within the first minute. Kill yourself. That was the first second of the show. Kill yourself. And I was
and
like,
he kept doing it. He
my
kept doing it as the
God.
show went on. He kept saying, "Kill yourself."
Oh my God!
And
I remember too. Oh, keep going.
Oh
keep
no,
going.
and we couldn't, and we were stuck because we had booked this time to be
And we
there.
had an hour long show. We were about to do an hour long show, an hour long improv show, long form improv for a group of people at Knuckleheads who just got off work.
Who
and
wanted to just have some laughs.
They were drinking hard. I'll never forget the guy in the front. He was this big Viking looking guy, like a big Swede.
Right.
He was red faced, crew cut, blonde hair, and he had loosened his tie. Obviously, he just came from selling insurance somewhere.
Yeah.
And he was drinking hard, and he was like, he was red, and he was like, God damn it! He was so mad.
Oh my God!
He was so mad. We hadn't even started the show, and he couldn't understand what he was like. Give me the dick jokes. What is this?
And you get
furious.
stuck because I remember when I was a kid, we went to the Syracuse County Fair, and Little Feat, this band Little Feat was playing, and they had a stand-up comic open for Little Feat, and the same thing happened. They're booing him from the second he got out, and he's like, "You don't realize, like, I am contracted to be here. Like, I can leave." He's like, "But you're still gonna have to wait 30 minutes." And people are like, "Good, get the F out of here."
Yeah.
You know, and it's like it is the craziest mentality where people are like, they don't want you there. And to be in that moment where people just hate you is awful.
Well, what I remember from that too, Paul, is it was girls and boys in the cast. We had a nice cast. It was a really funny mix of people, great characters. Like the show was very popular in New York, and so that's why we were invited to this. What we were told was an improv festival. It wasn't.
Stand up.
It was a comedy festival. Stand up.
Yeah, mainly stand up.
Mainly stand up at Knuckleheads in the Mall of America. So we start doing the show, and there's a girl in the cast who played a character, Star or whatever, who she wore tight clothes and was playing a Hollywood and was well endowed or whatever. Sure, she comes out, show us your that started.
It was so, and you know what?
And then remember Ludwig. Ludwig pulled out a knife, and that same guy goes, "Kill yourself with it." It was a pantomime knife or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it didn't matter what we did. They were just
they weren't having it.
Like Blues Brothers. We are 10 minutes into a long form improv show that was supposed to have 2 30-minute halves. So we're 10 minutes into an hour-long show, and just like Blues Brothers, they turn the lights off.
It was
wow.
shock. It was not a good scene. And the problem was too, and this is kind of, I think, always the issue. You can get cocky, right? You can kind of get into the zone where you're like, oh, we got this. Like, we've been performing to sold out crowds, killing every week. I remember one time I did a show here in Los Angeles. I performed at the Comedy Store. I performed at the Laugh Factory, and then I went across town to the Comedy Store, same set, and it just killed at the Comedy Store. And when I went to the Laugh Factory, it died. But you come in cocky because you're like, oh, I know this works. I'm just gonna I'm just getting my reps up right now. And when you are not expecting a sucker punch, it is, and those are the moments Rob is remembering that perfectly. We all have it locked into our brain. It's like,
do you remember this?
Yeah.
Do you remember this part of it too? When we all kind of went off stage after they shut the lights off, and we're all in the back, shell shocked. Not one of us was good. We were all kind of like, what the hell just happened? And because it was such a shock to us, we had never failed that badly.
Yeah, right.
And when we were doubting everything, we were like, is it me? Is it the show? Is it
Are we horrible?
Are we horrible? Does it really not hold up? And some of the people in the cast, there was somebody crying. It was that shocking.
That's nuts.
And I remember we didn't want to go back out to the club, So we all went out the back door, but the back door leads you into the Mall of America.
So you guys are in the mall.
So now we're in the mall, but right across the little catwalk was Planet Hollywood.
Yep.
So we all went across. We just snuck out the back, went into Planet Hollywood, and got drunk. Do you remember that?
Oh, we were. I have pictures of it. I have pictures of us drinking
please
out of.
send them to me.
Oh my gosh, I will. We have pictures of us like drinking out of like tiki bowls, like fish bowls of liquor. And under
we just
like,
got hammered.
Yeah, under like the robot, like the little robot from Star Wars: A New Hope, like that was running around the floor. Like it was so silly. I mean, but those are the moments that kind of make you. And I feel like
It did.
you know,
Because then when we got drunk, I do remember about an hour after the shock had worn off and we realized we're still alive, we're still good, and we had a little buzz on, we started laughing about it. And we started, and then we went back to the guy and we were like, hey, fuck you. You
Right.
know, how dare you? You turned the lights off on it. You invited us here. We gave up a whole week. We set aside this. We traveled ourselves out here. We're doing all this. You haven't helped us at all. And so we're doing our show tomorrow night because we're scheduled to do shows this week. So we're doing it. And he was like, well, you're not doing that show. And we were like, fine. We are doing improv. So we ended up doing like an Ass Cat style show, didn't we?
And it worked a little bit better. I mean,
Yeah.
it was tricky. It like that's the other thing too. Like Rob and I know Rob does stand up and everything like that, but we are improvisers, and improvising, if you've not seen it, especially back then, I think now it's a little bit more acceptable, but like people didn't know what we're doing. It looks like we're just like, it doesn't look professional. It doesn't, like, people don't even get what we're trying to do. And I think we took it for granted that people would be like, oh, we want to see like high class improv, so we really were not expecting it. It really is. Yeah.
Do you think Whose Line Is It Anyway brought improv into the living rooms and more people are understand it and enjoy it more?
Yeah, short form improv.
Yeah.
Short form improv, yes. What Paul and I always did, and Paul actually did some short form at Chicago City Limits in New York.
Yeah.
That's probably maybe one of the first times I saw you.
Oh my gosh, probably, back in the day.
Yeah.
I mean, that, and then short form is kind of great because to its name, it's short. So you could basically say like, hey, anyone have a, profession? Be like, gynecologist. And then you do like, hey, I'm Ted, the gynecologist. And I was like, yes, they're on your side, So, but with us, like, we talk to people and then they don't see how the suggestion will come in. They don't see like, like short form is like a magic trick. It's like, is this your card? And we're doing a much longer thing. So at the end, you're like, oh,
it's
that's
much more
the
like
gynecologist. Yeah.
It's thinking. You got to think.
Yeah, and you're creating long scenes. That's why it's long form.
Right.
And then you're connecting those scenes and you're connecting the characters and one storyline leads into another and it all kind of ends up at the end. And
that's heavy duty.
It's interesting. It's a wonderful art form. It's wonderful when you see it done well, I think. It can be painful if it's done poorly, but it's
like
also,
anything. Like you go watch a football game done poorly.
Exactly.
It's like
if it's sloppy, it's sloppy.
It's sloppy. And we've all seen it. We've all been there. You have some off weeks. That's it.
Yeah.
You kind of.
Now you have one of the best shows, in my opinion, out there called "How Did This Get Made?"
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And that's had such success. People love that show.
Oh, thanks.
That was your idea, correct?
Yeah, well, Jason Mantzoukas, who you might know from Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The League, June Diane Raphael from Grace and Frankie and Long Shot. Like it was something that we all came up with over a party at one of our friends' house. Our friend Jackie Clark was having a party, and June and I had just come back from seeing Wall Street 2, Money Never Sleeps. And I was like, oh my God, this movie. And June and I started talking about this movie, and Jason was like asking us questions about it. And in the middle of that conversation, Jason was like, this is a podcast. Now, this is a time before people even knew what a podcast was. You'd be like, I have a podcast. We're like, what is that? Radio? It's like, well, no, there's an app you can download. This is when you had to like download the podcast app. Like it wasn't even built into the Apple phone at this point. We've been doing the show for 14 years. And that's how it kind of came up. And it started very organically. And right now I'm in the middle of a run at Largo. We're doing every night is a different 50 Shades of Grey movie. Which has been really interesting. And then we get to tour around the country, and we're going off to London, and we're going to Ireland and doing all these shows in the next couple of months. So it's been a blast to get to tour with them, and that's really just the three of us talking about bad movies on stage.
But you do it so funny. It's hilarious when they pick great movies, really great movies.
Oh my gosh, some great ones.
they break it down, and the way they comment on the characters and the plot and the direction and just the scenes. It's pure joy to watch. I didn't realize though that it had been 14 years you've been doing
14
that
years
show.
is crazy. It's like,
That's fantastic.
and I think part of the reason why we like doing it is because it's easy for us. It is like we all like movies, but it's like we just keep it nice and steady. Like it's not our full-time job. It's a fun side job. And then we get to do it with really fun people. Like it's been great. Like, Charlize Theron came on the show because she was a fan of the show, and she did Hello Mary Lou Prom Night 2. Like we get to do these things with people because it's like I think there's one thing that we all share, which is like I'm not asking anybody to name them. I know I've been in bad movies. Rob, I'm sure you've been in bad things.
I've been in bad movies. Yes.
And there's never the intent to make a bad movie. Like the energy on a bad movie is the same as it is on a good movie. You just don't know. You don't know.
You're like, we're killing it.
Yeah. And, so I think we all understand that on some level that, you come into these things with the best hope. So it's not like, I don't even understand how they did it. Like, I understand how this movie got greenlit on some level. Someone's like, oh, Vanilla Ice is popular. Let's make Rebel Without a Cause with Vanilla Ice. And the opening scene will have Vanilla Ice race a horse on a motorcycle. And guess what? He'll win. Yeah, because it's a motorcycle and he's racing a horse. But so it's like
all day.
So it's fun, and there's no, I mean, especially now with streaming, there's no shortage of bad movies.
Right.
And you never know. And look, like people are like, why don't you do your movies that are bad? And I'm like, because it's not that fun when you do your own movie, because you do like the people that you work with for the most part, right? Like, you don't want to be like shit talking the people that you worked with. It's so much better to kind of step away from it and and just have fun with it. We're just an audience member who saw a movie and was like, this made no sense. Like 50 Shades of Grey. This is a movie that's supposed to be sexy, but it's the least sexy movie I've ever seen. It's so weird.
So I got a question for both of you. When you're doing long form, when you're doing short form improv, if you get nervous or you get excited and you want to go do it, do you ever have a drink or two, or do you know other guys who have a drink or two, or who go over the line? And then does that affect, because you rely on your mind, right? You rely on your sharpness and your ability to listen and your ability to interact with your fellow castmates. Has that ever crept into any of your performances where you had a drink or two before on and you went, oh my God, I think I crossed the line, and then you get freaked out by your non-sharpness?
I don't know about Paul, but I've always, everybody that we've ever performed with, for the most part, unless you're doing like a 1 a.m. improv jam where everybody's hammered,
right?
And then it's just kind of a free-for-all, which those exist. But for the most part, if you're doing a primetime, 7 o'clock Saturday show, or
you're treating it proper.
Yeah, nobody crosses the line, because like you said, you kind of have to be, the key to good improv, I think, is listening. Yeah. And you got to be able to process and listen and
you want to be as sharp as you can be, I imagine.
Yeah.
Does that ever happen to you, Paul?
Well, I only use methamphetamines, and that kind of keeps me really on my toes.
Understood.
I'll be listening, and I'll also be like repairing, remote controls in my house at the same time. Really just can multitask. I think that like oftentimes, the drinks are saved for like after the show, it seems like, but I will say that some of the most fun shows I've seen are shows that they kind of put out that disclaimer right in front of it. Like Rob said, like a 1 o'clock in the morning, like late night jam, people might be drunk, but there have been shows where it's like weed and liquor versus each other. And so one team is totally drunk, one team is totally high.
That is awesome.
Yeah. And then you get to watch both teams. And so it's kind of fun for the audience. You're in on the bit. Rob Hubel and I, which Rob and I all performed together. We did a show on 420. And back in the day at UCB on 420, rules relax, right? Like people are like, all right, well, everyone in that theater was smoking weed, and it was like, so the audience was high, and then doing a show for a high audience is interesting. We did shows at Bonnaroo, and that's an audience that is coming in just because they've been out in the rain and the mud listening to music, and they're high and they're tripping, and you're trying to get on their level. So I've done more shows where you're trying to meet people where they are and figure out what that is. It's like, oh, we just came from our prom and we're here and we're drunk, or, this is a bachelor party or a wedding. It's like, that's the ones, it's like, we have to stay on the level so we can kind of figure out where to get onto their level. It's like we're
Yeah.
trying to land that
And
plane.
we had a teacher coming up at the UCB who was one of the original UCB members, Matt Besser. And
He's funny.
Matt kind of had of all the teachers, there was Ian Roberts, Matt Walsh, Amy Poehler, and Matt Besser. And they were all wonderful teachers. They all offered something unique, a great perspective, a new piece of knowledge. I remember when Paul and I started, they only offered 3 levels at the UCB, and I took each level, 1, 2, and 3, twice, just so I could have all the teachers, because I wanted to hear different perspectives from all 4 of them, because they were all wonderful. But Matt Besser, among all of those teachers, or among the UCB, was more of a taskmaster. He was he was tougher.
Yeah.
He was just tougher. And I remember one time we were getting ready to do a show. It might have even been The Real World, or it might have been some, I don't know. What was the show where, X Factor? And,
Mortal Kombat. Yes.
And Mortal Kombat. It might have been one of those shows,
Yeah.
but he was the director of it. And somebody was drinking a beer. I remember. And he goes, "Are you drinking?" Like, called him out in front of, like, before the show, and the guy was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Seriously, you're going to drink before the show?" And he was so disgusted by it that just stuck in my head as,
don't do that.
Don't do that. We don't do that. That is not an option.
It makes sense, because what you guys do really relies, as opposed to like playing music, for instance. Like if you're playing music and you have a little buzz, it might make you feel good and smooth, and you can just do that. But listening and reacting to something someone says you've never heard, and you have to try to react, in a funny or, some way that's going to add to it, I would think that any sort of substance would like.
And I always took personal pride in the fact that if someone thought enough to buy a ticket to come see us perform or see me perform, whether it's stand-up or improv, I just felt a responsibility to give them my best.
Yeah, and I also think that what's interesting about, like, what we do is we're not up there alone, right? So if you're a stand-up and you're drinking, you have the stage, right? You have the microphone. It's one person. And if I am off, I'm messing up Rob's show. And, and not only Rob's show, I'm messing up Danielle's show, and I'm messing up whatever, like you're doing that. And, we had I don't know if you were here for this, Rob, but when we first started doing some of our Largo shows, we had one performer who was having his own issues about drinking and stuff like that. And we were kind of on him a little bit about, maybe we don't want to do this before the show, but he progressively is getting more and more drunk on stage. And it was the first time I had ever dealt with anything like that. And what it was
actually, I remember one of the shows.
Yeah, right. And it was like one of these things where you forget how you take for granted how much we are listening and how much we're playing together, because every time he would come into the scene, it was just like throwing a grenade in there. And then, you are in front of an audience, you have to go with it. And you are just trying. And again, it's like trying to find that balance. And it's like the whole show is a balancing act. And he's just like throwing you off balance at all times. And that was really difficult. We all chatted with him and talked to him. And, everyone goes through their own little moments and, there to support. But that was the first time I remember going like, it makes you tense. It makes the show tight, because you're like, I don't want him to come out and do this. I also know the audience is feeling it. And once the audience starts to feel uncomfortable, then everything starts to fall apart. It is like a house of cards, Yeah.
Wow.
I miss, we were so blessed, Paul and I, and all of our comedian, not all, but a lot of our comedian friends and the people that we perform with, we came up through the UCB theater. And we learned from some of the most wonderful improvisers and comedians. I feel blessed every day that we had that opportunity. And they had great theater in New York. Then they brought it out west in like 2005, and we kind of all migrated out this way. And then we did a show called Facebook. We did over 1,000 shows. Yeah. It was, or 1,500. It was like we had a big celebration.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so it went on for years and years and sold out every week. And it was such a gift to be able to do that show. Then COVID hit and everybody went bankrupt. Everything, especially the arts. The arts took a beating.
Oh, yeah.
And all these UCB theaters closed. Now, great, I'm happy to say that one of them's reopened in here, right? In LA.
Yeah.
They haven't opened one in New York, have they?
No, I think they're about to, though. Yeah.
Okay. So because I think that is such a great community and a great vehicle for young comedians trying to come up and find their footing,
Right.
find their voice, find, and if you can keep it from being, like we we came up in this theater in this community where you could experiment, you could be free to make mistakes, you could do that. And I hope that spirit is still there.
Ooh, I hope
because
so too.
it does get tricky sometimes.
Well, you know what I think too? It's like, look, comedy is ever evolving and ever changing, right? If you go back to the beginning of time, it's like vaudeville. People are doing shows next to dance acts and stuff like that, and now too, it's like we came up at a time when this was, exciting. You can go to a black box theater. You could go do the show. It's a $5 show that you didn't have to be, you didn't have to be 21 to get in there. It was like the anti stand-up comedy club world, right? Because stand-up comedy was like a 2-drink minimum. You go in there, it's a big night. It's expensive. We were doing like the more like punk music, or like a rock club version of that.
Yeah.
And
you
now,
guys were punk rock comedy.
yeah, I mean, I hate that term, but I set you up to say it. But yeah, it's like, but you know what? The truth is like when we were doing shows in New York, at the same time, like Brooklyn was starting to explode, and you have like the bands like the Strokes were performing, and it's like we were all coming up. They were doing it in a cooler way, but we were all performing in like the same venues. It's like, and because music is always cooler, and but I think now too, like people can do stuff on TikTok and get seen just as much, get a following, right? And they don't have to get out as much and perform. It's like there are differences, because in a weird way, I feel like we're the last of this breed that is still doing shows, right? Like we love doing shows, but you don't see that energy as much, or at least I'm not seeing it. I see the same faces, a lot of the same faces a lot of the time, performing what we do.
Yeah.
People are trying different things, and that's awesome. And that's how you get like amazing movies like Bottoms, or you get like Three Busy Debras on Adult Swim. You get like just new and interesting voices. Even that movie that just came out this year called Dicks, directed by Larry Charles. That was like a UCB stage show that now is like an A24 movie with Megan Mullally, directed by like Larry Charles from like Borat and Seinfeld, and it's great. Like people are getting to do their voices in different ways now. We can make short films. You can go. We didn't have any of those opportunities, and we were just at the advent of that, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah,
That's pretty neat.
It was. I love the time we came up. I love it, and everybody will love their time too. You know, everybody will love it. It's very individual. But I hope, Paul. I hope that we get to take the show that we do at Largo. It's kind of it was a show called Facebook that now is kind of morphed into a different style, but it's still kind of the same, long form improv vibe.
We
I
interview
actually like it a lot.
Yeah, we interview somebody from the audience, and then we just improvise scenes on them. So it's basically like it's just everything that we've been doing for years and years, and we're going to start taking it on the road. And so in the next couple of months, you'll see like, we'll be out there trying to do some slots, because I think it is fun for us to go around. And, we're at a point in our lives too, where it is fun for us to, we can go off and do a show one night and come back and make it, it's like, and it's better to go than by yourself. I know, Rob, you travel around all the time, and it's lonely, right? When you have to go by yourself, right? Or do something. So, for us, it's like, to go with your friends and do an hour-long show and just hang and have a nice dinner, it's like there's something nice about that.
It's wonderful, and I dream of it. So I'm so happy that we're going to maybe have this opportunity to go out and do that. It really gets me excited to think about it.
What can I ask you? What made you want to write the book?
Yeah, well, the interesting thing. So we've been doing How Did This Get Made for 14 years, and in that time, casually throughout the show, never intentionally, I would tell stories about my childhood. And every time I would do it, it would be like a record scratch. Jason and my wife, June, would be like, wait, what? What do you mean? And I'd start to explain it. And it got to the point where our audience started to be like, these are the craziest stories from Paul's childhood. And they would make like, blog posts and Reddit threads and supercuts on YouTube. And people were like, you got to write a book. You got to write a book. And I always thought like, yeah. I maybe, I don't know. I mean, I don't know. And like 2 years ago, I was like, you know what? Maybe I should. I love writing, but I knew that I needed to make it different than an anecdote. Like an anecdote I tell you is going to be different than a book that I sit down and write. Like, what am I trying to say? Like I respect the written word enough to be like, I want to do this the right way. And if I'm going to write a book, I don't want to just like crap it out. And so, I decided to start writing, and I wrote about like 100 pages. And then I went and found an agent, and I was like, is this something? He's like, yeah, this is good. Like, we should keep on working here, go deeper, go more. And so the book that I made is not the book that I really even thought I was intending to make. I think
Right.
it's going to check off the boxes of what you want from like the how did this get made fun childhood stories, but it also goes in different directions as well. And it's funny in writing a book, it's like, oh, I barely even got in all the things I wanted to get in, but I'm so excited that I felt like this is a book that's not like a biography. It's not even it's a memoir, but it's very much about, I think, growing up, a kid who grew up in a weird kind of family like situation when I was younger, and then kind of figuring out how I wanted to become a dad and kind of like course correct some of that sort of stuff as well. So it's funny, it's sad, it's a joyful recollections of trauma. There's some dark stuff in there, but all the while I think it's told in a way that I would be telling you all. And I talk about UCB a little bit in there as well, but it really is more about me as a human being and less about me. And like, man, one time Terrell Suggs came on the league. I have those stories too. I have stories about working with Nick Cage, maybe book 2, but I didn't want to like dilute it because I sometimes feel like you read these like celebrity memoirs and it's always like, all right, now here's my chapter on when I worked with Paris Hilton, and and then you get like so I wanted to keep it a little bit more focused than that.
Well,
Cool.
I think Paul is one of the best storytellers I've ever met, just in life.
Oh my gosh.
He can tell a story and keep you captivated and entertained better than anybody I've ever met in my life. And so, I love your dad, by the way.
Oh, my dad's great.
He's like the sweetest man in the world. Funny, charming, supportive. He used to come to all our shows when we
That
were.
is cool.
My dad saw
and then he'd see us after. He saw us after the show, and he'd always hang out till after the show. And he'd be like, "Oh my God, Rob, you killed it with that one thing you did." And I'd be like, "Mr. Scheer, it's so good to see you." And he was always so
so
positive. I just love your.
And my dad is like, it's so funny. As I get older, I realize like my dad is just like typical like Catholic dad, very delicate sensibilities sometimes. And what he saw at that UCB theater, first of all, he saw all my friends' asses. Everybody's ass was seen by my dad. I think my dad was sprayed with like
and dirty stuff.
Like he's
dirty.
I think he was sprayed with blood from a ripped off dildo. And, like my dad has seen it all and never once showed me any bit of like judgment. It would be like,
that is killer.
Jackie, that dildo circus bit was hilarious. I'm like,
what did your dad do for a living?
My dad's a pharmacist. And so, he worked in the Bronx and lived in Queens. And I just think that he loved coming out and seeing the shows. And, he kind of got this front row center seat to see like all of comedy because, as Rob and I are performing our shows, Tina Fey and Rachel Dratch are doing a 2-person show. And you're seeing, so many people that have had these amazing careers, whether it is Amy Poehler, whether it's people coming through the theater. Natasha Lyonne used to guest on our shows, and like
Brett Gelman and John Daly and
Mike Myers came and played with Respecto one time. It's so much, and Robin Williams jumped up on stage. Like, people were in the crowd. You would just be amazed. Harrison Ford hanging out in front of theater, like, look, what's this? It's like, we kind of had this lucky moment, but it was fun. My dad got to see all that stuff. He was down to see it all.
I love that.
He was great. But Paul, so knowing your dad, knowing you as a storyteller, I'm really excited to read this book.
I am excited for you to read it
because it sounds like it sounds like you got vulnerable in it. Mm-hmm. Sounds like you got raw. And probably dealt with some things and told some stories that are, probably pretty close to your heart and
I would
maybe
say
haven't shared before.
Well, here's what I'll say: that this fake book, this is my real book, but it's somebody's fake book inside because my book is not printed yet. But that's just a little insider info for you. June is the first person who read it. I had not shown it to anybody until before we like locked the book, and she was like, I didn't know these stories. So my wife and I have been together since 2005, my wife of 20 years didn't know some of these stories. So it's going to be different. And again, it's fun. It is vulnerable. I think it just goes to places I'm excited for people to read it and also daunted. It's one of those things where like, oh man, it's going to be out there. And I think for me, what was kind of fun about writing it is, unlike everything else I do, we just talked about improv. That's so disposable. You do it once, you walk away from it. This is locked in amber. It's there. It's never can change. Even when you write a script, you know you're going to cast people. It's going to change. You're going to edit it. You're going to change it. You can do ADR, change it. This is locked. And I think that reality really hit in as I was finishing it up. And you get this like, whew, because even on stand-up,
Right.
you can shift, you can move, and it's like, oh, I know this is it. I'm here. I'm in.
Yeah.
So people can pre-order it now.
Pre-order
And
it wherever you get your
When
books.
does it come out?
It comes out in May. And I'm
Okay.
supposed to
Oh,
I'm
good.
supposed to push the May. I'm supposed to hide the May because I want people to buy it now. But don't buy any of the AI versions of my book. Apparently online, Amazon, there's whenever you release a book, AI or there are people out there that quickly write an AI version of what they think your book is to try to get sales.
What?
Oh yeah. So
Are you serious?
if you look online on Amazon, you will see multiple books like the biography of Paul Scheer, Paul Scheer's comedy journey. All these books is not my title, Joyful Recollections of Trauma with this cover, but it is all these other things, and just to kind of trick people into getting an AI printed book.
It's like those emails you get with one letter misprinted.
Yes.
You're like, and they're like, they hope you screw up when you're typing a search engine.
Yeah,
I hate that. I hate that so much.
It's so crazy.
So let's make sure everybody gets the right book. Show the cover again,
This is
please.
it, Joyful Recollections of Trauma. It's the only one that's with this title. And don't be upset that I'm not wearing socks. It was a weird choice that day that I didn't wear socks in this.
I support it.
I like it.
All right, there
I
it
like
is.
it.
Your ankles look like your head.
Yeah. it feels very European. I like it.
There it is.
That's awesome, Paul.
It was so
I can't wait.
It was
I
so
can't
funny
wait.
because you think like in when you make a book, like I'd have a say in what the cover was. And no, I just one day they sent me this and I was like, oh, I took that picture like 7 years ago. Like, that's your cover. I was like, all right, let's do it.
You didn't get a final say on the cover?
I mean, they sent it to me. They said, you like it? And I was like, I did like it. I do like the cover,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I didn't have anything to do with it. I have nothing to do with it. Like, this picture literally was taken
It's a good
before
cover.
my first son was born.
It's a great picture. You look good at it,
Yeah,
man.
it
You look
looks good.
great.
I'm happy
Yeah.
with it, thrilled with it. Did not have anything to do with it.
Dude. Well, Paul, we just did a show last week.
Yeah.
I'm not going to make the next show, unfortunately. I'm going to be out of town. But I'm looking forward to getting on the road, man. and
We'll
doing
stay
some comedy.
tuned. It will be a lot of fun. I'm so psyched I got to talk to you guys here. This is a blast.
By the way, yeah, thanks for jumping in. I know I hit you kind of late on this, so I
My
really
pleasure.
appreciate you being flexible, brother.
No problem. My pleasure, guys. I'll talk to y'all
Awesome.
later. All right.
Hey,
ya.
thanks, Paulie.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye, buddy.
Bye.
I love that guy.
That's not what you said before the episode.
Huh?
You said something different.
What did I say?
You said, I don't love that guy.
Wait,
You
I said
you
the
said-
exact opposite?
I don't love Paul Scheer.
Wow, I think you misheard me then, because I love that guy.
I love him.
Paul.
I love Paul. Paul, thank you for doing the show.
Oh no, seriously, Paul. We came up in the UCB in the late '90s together.
Dude, your class, your alumni
Yeah.
from there went on. A lot of people had success.
I think, yeah,
Have success.
I think it was a really special time, and for those who stuck with it and stayed.
What years were you there?
The UCB.
Yeah.
I think I took my first class there in '97,
Okay.
fall of '97.
So you were right at the turn
Yeah,
of the century.
yeah, and had been, I remember.
Were you intimidated your first day?
Oh my gosh, I funny story. It was at they didn't have a theater then,
Right.
so they taught classes at this place called Dick Shea's Dance Studio,
Awesome.
which was down on 14th and 6th Avenue. Okay, so I remember I was so nervous. I took a cab,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't have the money for a cab, but I took a cab down, and I got there like an hour early.
That's great.
Wait. So I'm an hour early, so I'm like, well, I'm too early to go in. So I went across the street and got a candy bar or something. Then I started to panic, and I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to do this. I'm starting to, I got in a cab and I went back home.
Oh, within the hour. Yes.
Went back home.
And did you walk in?
I went into my apartment and I sat there and I was so ashamed.
Did you
of
sit on a
myself.
chair or a bed?
I sat on a couch.
I need to. I want the picture painted.
I sat. It was a futon.
You sat on your futon.
I sat on
you
my
sat on your
futon.
bed couch.
Yep.
Okay.
And I sat there and literally had a conversation with myself.
How'd it go?
I was yelling at myself. I was embarrassed and ashamed. I was like, "What is your problem? You gave up flight school to come be a comedian. You are here. You got yourself to New York. I don't care," because I tried stand up and I didn't. I hated it.
Okay.
And so I was trying this now. And I was afraid, I was just afraid. I was afraid of, I don't know. I was having panic. I was scared. And
Yeah.
so I was like, but I was like, you gave up all of this to put yourself in this position. Now go do it. Quit being a wuss about it.
You
and
could
go.
just say it. Quit being a pussy.
And so I literally had this argument with myself. I got up and I said, oh, fuck it.
Right.
I went back downstairs, got in a cab. I mean, I spent like $40 on cabs.
That's
Which,
great.
I did not. Went back down,
Uh-huh.
got down there just in time for class, went in. There was probably 20 or 30 people. And I sat there and Ian Roberts was my teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, welcome to level 1. Great teacher, great improviser. We got up. I was taking acting classes, so I knew, like, we're going to do warm-ups. We're going to do, So he was teaching us some warm-ups, whatever, crazy eights. And they have all these different warm-ups you do to kind of get your body and your mind and your voice all going, right? Kind of get you out of your, meek self. You kind of get your body moving and your voice going. So we did all the warm-ups. And then he goes, the way I do this class is we're just going to dive into some scene work. So everybody's going to get up today and do a scene. And I don't want you to, be embarrassed or anything, because we're all learning.
It is what it is.
It is what it is. We just get up and do a scene. All right, let's begin. You two. And he pointed at people, right? So everybody starts getting up and doing scenes. Who hasn't gone? People slowly getting up. And I just sat in the corner. And I was like, maybe I can wait this out. Maybe I can wait this out.
I love this, dude.
And he gets up and goes, all right, we're almost out of time. Who's left? He goes, you haven't gone, pointed at me, and you haven't gone, and pointed at Donna Fineglass. And we both were like, oh, yeah. So we got up, and we just started doing a scene. I've never been more terrified. My heart was pounding.
Yeah.
But it worked. It was funny.
You realized.
Donna, thank God, Donna was funny.
Right.
And smart. And she kind of picked up some of the cues I was dropping, and I was picking up what she was dropping.
You were riffing.
We were playing.
Right.
It was happening. It was really organic, and it was funny. Like, it made sense, and the classmates were laughing and everything. And we did our scene, and that was it. And Ian was like, all right, great job, everybody. Like, not many notes, whatever. And it was a breakthrough. It was a real breakthrough. Because Donna and I ended up doing comedy for years together at the UCB Theater, because we took all the same classes. We came up.
Right.
Then we were on the same house team, improv team. Then we ended up in sketch shows together. Like, she and I performed for the next 7 years. And I think the world of her. She is so talented. She got on Mad TV. She was the first one of us in our group to get a break, to get a real gig. And she got the first real gig. She got Mad TV, which was filmed on the West Coast, so she had to leave New York to go do it. But we were all so proud of her, because it was our group of people, and she got the break.
Do you think that had that first scene with Donna, gone south?
Yeah.
That you would have just left and gone, I maybe flight school again.
No, I don't know. I don't know the answer.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
it's interesting because when you started,
I like to think I would have, because I paid my money,
right?
So I probably would have gone back.
Right.
I probably would have gone back. I think I would have.
Yeah.
I think I would have stuck out level 1.
Got it.
Do you know what I mean?
But I mean, what a treat to have that first thing be,
yeah,
and like
it worked. It worked.
Yeah.
And I thought, that was the first moment I thought, maybe I can do this.
Right.
Maybe I could. I still had a ton to learn. I was still green. I still didn't know so much.
Right.
But it was enough to go, I didn't die. It wasn't as bad as I thought.
And it turned you on.
Yeah, it did.
Like you went, I like this.
Yes.
It
lit a fire.
Right.
It lit a fire.
The fire
somehow the fire was there, or I wouldn't be trying.
Of course.
But the desire was there. But then that was the first little pat on the back that said,
the spark was there, and then that skit was this.
Yeah.
Ooh. We can do this.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then it's hilarious because Paul, Donna, myself, Danielle, Jackie, Owen.
Jackie Owens?
No. Two people. Manzukis,
That guy's-
Hubel, Chad Carter, Owen Burke, like just amazing people that I still play with today that are so crazy talented, so crazy funny.
That's awesome.
They've all gone on to great careers, whether it's in front of the camera, behind the camera, writing, producing, directing. They're all still here. They all migrated from New York out here. So I see them all the time. Not enough, in my opinion, but I do love them, and I love seeing them prosper and do great things. And you can hear their voice in certain, comedy things I see, and I'm like, that's Jackie, or that's Scheer for sure. That's Scheer and Hubel
For sure.
because they do a lot together now.
Yeah.
So it's wonderful to see all those guys, and Gelman and Daly and all these people, and Nick Kroll, and all these wonderful people that kind of came up.
That's a great
that time.
comedic time.
It was a really cool time to be in New York and be in that scene for sure. And I just hope the UCB, makes it back, because it's a great community and it's a great theater for young actors and comedians.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was a really cool time. All right.
I love you, man.
I love you too, bud.
What?
I guess I'm going to go down to Venice Beach and start lifting weights.
Are you doing that today?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you need to get polished up?
No, I've shaved myself,
Okay.
and I'm just going to put the baby oil I don't like to put baby oil on before I drive.
You didn't shave your pubic beard?
It's not a pubic beard. It's a regular face beard. That's been established. That's everybody.
Oh
knows
yeah.
that.
Of course, Rob. Sorry, I forgot. So anyway, you're gonna go lift weights, juiced up and
Not juiced up, oiled up,
oiled up,
and
slathered. You're gonna be like a giant baby back rib out there.
I hope so.
That's cool.
That's how I like to get my pump on.
Yeah. Well, that's what they say on Twitter.
Is that what they say?
Yeah, that's one of them.
Hey, have you
What?
seen these?
Are those
Check 'em out.
Are those your new black flies?
Black flies!
Black flies!
Better believe it, they're black flies!
Black flies! You look so cool, you look like you're in a shop class Rob. It's, it's not the glasses, it's the color.
I want you to check this out, Darren. Look, I can see my phone. I can read anything on it. Ask me something.
Are you okay?
Ask me what time it is.
What time is it, Rob?
10:52.
You can read that.
Black flies! Black flies! Better believe it, they're black flies!
Black flies! You can read the things on your iPhone.
Yes.
Yeah, I get it.
Copyright, trademark, Rob Riggle. That song and
Damn
the
it,
lyrics.
you
Song and
always
lyrics.
do
Song
that.
and lyrics.
You took
I got it. It's mine, suckers. It's mine.
Riggle's picks. Come back.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. Rob Riggle here. That's my friend Darren Leader. We'll talk to you next time on Riggle's Picks.
On Riggle's